Okay, let's talk about the telephone conversation between Russia's Sergey Lavrov and the Secretary of State Marko Rubio from the US. So on the 15th of February, they had a telephone conversation, and this is the readout of the conversation from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Russian website, their English version. And it goes like this. Building on the February the 12th telephone conversation between the presidents of Russia and the United States, the two foreign ministers agreed to maintain an open channel of communication to address long-standing issues in Russia-American relations. Their goal is to remove unilateral barriers inherited from the previous US administration that have hindered mutually beneficial trade, economic and investment cooperation. Both sides expressed a shared commitment to engage on key international issues, including the situation in Ukraine, developments in Palestine and the broader Middle East, as well as other regional matters. The conversation also covered ways to swiftly reverse the restrictions on Russian diplomatic missions in the United States, which were introduced by the Obama administration in 2016 and led to reciprocal measures. It was agreed that the expert-level meetings will be organised in the near future to coordinate specific steps towards removing these obstacles to the functioning of diplomatic missions in the United States and Russia. Sergey Lavrov and Marko Rubio reaffirmed their readiness to restore a respectful and constructive interstate dialogue in line with the approach set by the presidents. They agreed to maintain regular contact, including discussions on preparations for a potential high-level Russian-America summit. Now, following this telephone conversation, today, the 18th of February, a delegation from the US and a delegation from Russia has flown to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia for a meeting. It's not the presidents of the countries. They've sent key members of their teams, including Sergey Lavrov and Marko Rubio, to sort of discuss the situation. And they're not just going to discuss the Ukraine war, they're going to discuss all the things that were mentioned in the telephone conversation. However, one of the big topics on the agenda will be the Russian-Ukraine war. However, Europe and Zelensky from Ukraine have not been invited to those meetings. They've left. Keith Kellogg getting sort of feelings from Europe, but I think that because they feel Europe can't bring anything positive to the table, that they feel at this stage it's best that Europe sit out of the meeting. This has made Europe absolutely furious. They've the leader of France, Macron, he's convened a meeting where he's invited I think 8 states, leaders of states, to a emergency summit in Paris, together with von der Leyen, the leader of the EU. But all that has done, it's exposed that all the differences in the European Union. So, you've got you've got England, the UK, England, and France saying they will send soldiers to Ukraine as part of a peacekeeping force. And leading all this is the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who's absolutely, punching above his pay grade, saying that, NATO are on irreversible path. Ukraine are on an irreversible path to NATO, and that we're going to send British troops there. But all this, I think he knows deep down is not really going to happen. He's agreed to have a meeting with President Trump, I believe, next week. And I feel he just wants to go over to the USA just to try and convince Trump to change path on the Ukraine thing. But as this meeting has gone on, I think it's still going on as I make this video in Riyadh. But what's come out is that one of the negotiators from the Russian side has says it was a very good meeting, and you know, they've made progress, but there's still more talking to do. They've agreed to set up a separate group to discuss the Russia-Ukraine conflict, but it seems as though they're making progress on other areas. You know, now I look at this as that this has all come about, the things discussed in the telephone conferences. It's very obvious that Trump wants to normalise trade relations with Russia. And there's a couple of reasons that I think are the main thing here. So the first one, I think, is energy and some other sanctioned products. Now, because there was a lot of sanctions on Russia, oil and gas, this has upset all energy pricing around the world. And one of the things that Trump wants to do, he wants to bring down inflation. So they ran on, you know, accusing the Biden administration caused a big spike in inflation, and energy was a big part of that. Energy is a big part of inflation because it underpins manufacturing, transportation, a lot of things that move goods around, manufacture of goods. If energy is more expensive, then those goods will be more expensive. So I personally think that Trump wants to lift the energy sanctions on Russia. However, this is going to leave the European Union in a really difficult situation because they've been hell-bent on all these sanctions. In fact, a lot of the time, the European Union have led these sanctions on Russia for the energy, and they've actually decimated their own manufacturing industry, you know, due to those Russian sanctions. They thought it would collapse the Russian economy. That hasn't happened. They've really caused massive harm to their own economies. Their citizens have been paying much, much higher for gas and electricity than they would have been paying. I actually made a video about this about 2 years ago. If you want to go and search for that, please do so. But it's going to leave the Europeans in a very difficult position. I mean, not to even mention Nord Stream 2, that it's you know, likely that was initiated, the damage and blowing up of that was initiated by Biden. So, you know, if America under Trump now lift the energy sanctions on Russia, Europe are going to be sitting there looking very, very stupid indeed. So that's the first thing. There are also other minerals. I think like US import a lot of fertilizer from the US, but Trump is very much a businessman, and I think he also sees that there's a lot of potential from doing, you know, American companies doing business within Russia. A lot of companies withdrew after the sanctions were applied, and I think Trump sees that, you know, a lot of that business has been lost to China and other Southeast Asian countries, and I think one of the things by normalizing relationships is that Trump wants to get some of that business back. You know, Trump's a deal maker. But as I say, it's going to leave Europe in a very stupid, humiliated position. Europe now, they're running around, they're panicking, they really don't know what to do. They're not happy because they're not involved directly in the talks. But really, from a point of view of NATO, the US pays the lion's share, and I think that it's the US that will have the ultimate say. And from what I've been hearing about this meeting in Riyadh, the Russians have absolutely affirmed that there's no chance of any deal. You know, Ukraine are not going to be joining NATO, not now, not next year, not in 10 years, not ever. And I think that's a very, very thick red line for Russia. So I really don't think that if they want to do a deal, that is going to happen. As far as Keir Starmer saying that Ukraine are on unreversible path to NATO is just nonsense from the British Prime Minister, because he doesn't have the authority to make that decision on his own. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments. But as always, for now, take care.